What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD mode video. So today I wanted to discuss a secret feature that was released for the Season 7 update, something that not a lot of people have discussed. And if anything, the devs didn't really explain this in their patch notes or everything. I think this was something that was kind of just discovered by some random player, and I guess, yeah, like that's how it pretty much came to be. And at first I was kind of unsure about this. I was watching Squally's video when he did mention it, and I'm not sure if he was the one that found it, but it's still kind of interesting. So today I kind of wanted to discuss this feature, which is the fact that you could actually now use ultra frames with higher graphic settings other than just low and medium. So like I said, this is a feature that I didn't think would actually happen. I thought maybe he made a mistake, because like a feature like that seems like it's too good to be true, especially for COD Mobile. But no, I was actually wrong. You could actually go on higher graphic settings with ultra frames, but it also depends on what device you're running. So since I had, I say had as in past tense, since I had one of the iPad Pros from, like a few years back, I was only still able to go on medium graphics with ultra frames. So I decided to ask my friend Taco, since he does have a more recent version of the iPad Pro with I think the M1 or the M2 chip, and I asked him, hey, can he go into like very high graphics or even high graphics with ultra frames? And luckily enough, he was actually able to do it. So this was kind of like on a Discord share. I mean, the quality wasn't high. Obviously, when you're like streaming your stuff, the quality isn't going to be at its best. But yeah, I mean, he was running ultra frames and like with the highest graphics that you could put in this game, and it just looked absolutely beautiful. So I decided it was a pretty good time to upgrade the old iPad Pro that I had so I could get the new one. It did kind of come with a sacrifice, because I usually budget on what I can get with this game like within a season. So I might have to get like less draws, and like I have to be really careful with what I get this season. But it was really worth it, because yeah, I ended up upgrading to another 11-inch iPad Pro with an M2 chip, and this thing runs really well with very high and ultra frames together. That's why you see the gameplay right now, it's a lot more cleaner, a lot more vibrant and everything. I'm actually at the very highest graphics settings. So it was definitely worth it in my opinion. I ended up trading in the old iPad so I could get like the other one like at a much more discounted price. But yes, I mean, dude, this thing is absolutely stunning in my opinion. So the reason why I wasn't able to do this on my old iPad, it had weaker specs. It didn't have any of the M chips. It only has the A12Z. This was like the last iPad before they made the one with the M1 chip. So bottom line, the iPad that I had was like slowly dying. The battery wasn't the same anymore. And yeah, I mean, obviously with extensive play, yeah, it's going to end up dying like that. But yeah, I decided to upgrade. I didn't really change the size. I mean, it's still the 11-inch iPad, just the newest version. And it was a good thing, because I didn't have to get another Magic Keyboard or I guess a different type of case. So I saved a lot of money getting this. At first, I was kind of worried that like if I bought this, like it wasn't guaranteed that it was going to let me do that. But at the same time, like you can't really blame me. I mean, usually when it comes to Apple devices, whichever phone or whichever tablet has a bigger screen usually has a lot more specs. And it's very evident when you buy, like, let's say an iPhone 14 versus an iPhone 14 Pro Max. They obviously have very different specs. I mean, even if you look at the 14 Pro and just the regular 14 only has 60 frames, while the Pro Max has 120. I originally thought that if I got that version of it, I would only be able to go on high graphics, but no, I mean, this thing is actually very capable of holding up very high graphics with the ultra frames together. I mean, it's absolutely crazy how strong this thing is. Back in the day when they added the ultra frames, it was kind of like a letdown that I wasn't able to run very high graphics with the ultra frames, because I thought the iPad that I had was very capable of it, but that wasn't really the case. And a lot of people had told me and corrected me many times that like my iPad would melt if that happened. And little by little I started to believe it, because my iPad started to heat up a bit more over time. And yeah, I mean, at some point I was going to upgrade the iPad anyways. But I think one of the biggest reasons why no one is talking about this feature is that there's not a lot of devices that are truly capable of running like, those types of settings. You're really going to need like the most recent iPad Pro or, maybe a very powerful gaming phone in order to actually be able to run the game like this. But I think for a long time, even for the ones that play this game on PC, I'm assuming that you were able to do that like right from the jump. So unless you guys could correct me on that. But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely insane how well this thing performs. Oh, also, I forgot to mention that I tried doing that as well for my iPhone 14 Pro Max, but it doesn't do that. It just goes up to medium and ultra frame. So unfortunately, if you do have the recent iPhone, it's not going to work that way. Maybe the iPhone 15 will. I'm not really too sure. I don't think the iPhones really use A chips. I mean, sorry, not A chips. Like the M1s or the M2 chips. I think those are really just reserved for MacBooks or just the iPad Pro. But then again, I think one of the iPad Airs actually has the M1 chip, but it doesn't have the capability for ultra frames. Also, with this update, it does kind of confirm how many frames we actually get with ultra, because there's always been this debate where, people were believing that it only gives you 90 frames. Some said it was 120 frames, but no, it already tells me that it's 120 frames. Even with my older iPad model, it still was 120 frames. Again, that might also differ on what device you use. Maybe there is still 90 frames for certain devices, but I can't be too sure about that. But again, I know I said this for the millionth time, but just the way the game looks with these settings on, it just looks absolutely crazy. And keep in mind, I'm also, putting on super resolution as well, which is something I didn't think the iPad Pro would get, given that it probably already had it built in. But no, actually, the iPad Pro, I guess they were still working on it. And yeah, we finally got that for the Apple devices. And oh my God, it's absolutely crazy. And honestly, with the footage that I have right now, as of editing this video, it does kind of take a toll on my computer. It's a little more laggy because of the high quality. But having this on, like, it just shows you how much more that you were missing, given that, like, especially for me, I've been stuck in medium graphics for such a long time because that's all my iPad could handle at the time. And unfortunately, like, yeah, we missed out on a lot of things, like how good these maps actually look with all the graphics put on. I mean, there's a lot of different effects that I couldn't see with my mythic or legendary skins because of my low graphics settings. It's crazy how much I missed. Most of my legendary skins, like even like the AK-47 Radiance, particularly, is probably one of the best looking mythics with like this extremely high graphic settings. So I pulled up some gameplay footage just to show you how good the AK-47 Radiance gets when it's at its final reactive stage. Out of all the mythics and legendaries, this one is like the absolute best in my personal opinion. But believe it or not, it wasn't always like this. Before Ultra Frames even came out back in season 2 of like year 2, I think, we didn't, I mean, we were on like very high frames, or like, or I guess max frames. That's what they called it. And there I was actually able to run very high graphics with max frames. And yeah, like for a time I enjoyed the game like that, but ever since the Ultra Frames came out, obviously I wanted to perform a little better. So I had to keep that mode on. It was kind of like a bad sacrifice sometimes, I mean, maybe I could perform just the same if I had 60 frames, but I got too used to using the Ultra Frames. But man, it's like playing a completely different game, or like a remastered version of this game. And I do have that as a regret. I mean, it's like, as good as the Ultra Frames was, like as much as it helped me improve and everything, it kind of sucked that you had to sacrifice like the higher graphic settings, because I mean, honestly, like there's so much like that I missed about it. And there are times where I wanted to just go into like very high graphics just to, play with it for a little bit. But obviously the gameplay would just feel extremely weird, and it just didn't feel comfortable for me anymore. But that's what happens when you're used to something. Like, you don't want to switch back to how you were before, because obviously it won't feel right for you anymore. That's why when there was that issue with Ether Crystal and Polychromatic just not having its parallax effect unless you were like on high graphics, like I couldn't stand staying on that lower frame rate. It just didn't feel right. So I just waited for them to fix everything, which I knew that they would, and they have. But yeah, overall, the new graphics settings with the Ultra Frames is absolutely incredible. And like, I'm happy that they finally made it possible, especially for those who have the stronger devices. Unfortunately, for those that might have the weaker stuff, the lower end, it's still like you're still kind of stuck where you are. And even for my friend Parker, I mean, he's still stuck at low graphics with Ultra Frames. So that's the cold hard, I guess, reality of things. Not everyone could run at the best specs possible, and it's a shame. But yeah, hopefully someday in the future, like, every device will be able to run this at like a maximum everything. And I mean, if you think about it, most mobile games, especially if you run them on the highest settings, they kind of look almost close to console. I mean, obviously Modern Warfare 2, if you compare this one to that game, obviously they're like, yeah, Modern Warfare 2 is a lot better looking. But it's kind of crazy how far mobile games have come, and I could only imagine how good Warzone Mobile is going to be once it's complete. Almost like when I saw some footage with the updated graphics, I literally thought it was maybe the console game and someone just put like the touch things on it to make it look like it was Warzone Mobile. But no, it was literally the game itself. So yeah, I mean, mobile games have come a long way. So yeah, that's all I really have to say on this matter. So anyways, hope you guys have a wonderful day. Make sure you leave a like, make sure to subscribe for some more COD Mobile content, and expect footage like this from here on out.